Hey, Jim Toscano here, and welcome to the Monday night live stream. Actually, on Monday night, sometimes these things show up in the morning when we have guests across the pond and so forth. Last week, I actually played a rerun of the Brian Dunn episode, which I hope you enjoyed that. The Brian Dunn one was super fun. He's a good friend of mine from way back. So when I'm not here, I try to do a rerun. Next week, I won't be here either because I'll be still doing some drumming. Yes. So, but I'll have an episode running then, and then the following week I'll be on with Adam Deach. So that it's going to be super fun. And also a little bit of housekeeping. There's a contest running right now to win this method pad from ProLogix Percussion, and I'll talk about that again. But that link is on my Facebook page, so there's still time to enter. And what you can do is you can go on there, you click the link, you literally just have to put in your email address and enter the contest, and you have a chance to win the pad. We've given away a few practice pads now, and it's been going really well. So we're giving away the ProLogix pad. And my guest tonight is also a fellow ProLogix artist. I think there's one other thing I wanted to mention just real quick. Oh, yeah, just the Hit Like a Girl contest. We're into week 3. I'm a judge on Hit Like a Girl. So any females that are out there watching that haven't entered yet, enter the contest. There's still time. Get out there and do it. Make a video, play some drums. There's such talented ladies out there, but it's really for every level. And it's just being part of it is really inspirational and really fun to watch. And as a judge, I get to watch all the videos. So it's been really, really exciting. So Hit Like a Girl. You can find the link for that on Instagram. Just go to Hit Like a Girl on Instagram and you can find all the links, or go to their website, Hit Like a Girl Contest, and enter to win. All right. So, and let me mention couple little things here. I want to mention my companies: Vader Drumsticks, ProLogix Percussion, Offset Pedals, Sabian Cymbals, Black Magic Designs for all the fun electronics and switchers and good stuff. And you could hit that Linktree QR code, hit the mailing list QR code, and you can follow all the things that I have coming up. And now, with no further ado, I'm going to bring in my guest. So my guest tonight is an educator, a player, an author, an entrepreneur. He makes these wonderful headphones that I'm wearing called Ultraphones, which are like the best drummer headphones on the planet. We won't say drummer headphones. We'll say musician headphones, because they're extreme isolating headphones, which I've been using them here in the studio. I'm going for a week of sessions starting tomorrow, so I'll have my Ultraphones with me in the studio. Very excited about that. And also, another thing about my guest is that he's sort of pioneered from a very early time the push-pull technique, open and close technique in the hand, and I want to talk to him about that. Without any further ado, I'm going to bring in my guest, Gordy Knudtson. There he is. By the way, I'm playing his track King Snake, which is on his YouTube channel. And I'll put a link to this in the description, but it's super funky, the King Snake. Yeah. And you're playing keys, drums, and bass on this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like a funk cha-cha. It's like pretty intense, man. So did you write that tune? You wrote the tune?
It was a rhythm groove idea I came up with when I was working with this Cuban piano player, Nachito Herrera.
Yeah.
And they have this cha-cha comp, and a lot of funk stuff in the 60s and 70s kind of had that cha-cha vibe to it.
Yeah, yeah.
So the concept was, what if Prince went to Cuba, or if some Cuban guys heard some James Brown or Prince, So you put the minor sixth thing in on the cha-cha comp, and then it funkifies the whole thing.
Oh my God. It's like that term that Robbie Amin used for his book, Funkifying the Clave.
Yeah.
It's like funkifying the cha-cha.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great track.
Thank you.
Definitely, guys, go to Gordy Knudtson's.
It's Knudtson.
Knudtson. Oh, am I saying it wrong?
That's all right. I'm so used to it. I travel so much, I get used to it.
Knudtson.
California, they're getting it right because there's some Knudtson dairy out there, but you say the K. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you pronounce the K.
Pronounce the K. Not like knock. It's like Canuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my
or
God.
Canine. I know what you mean.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Oh, we could go all night with that. That could get dangerous. Yeah, so that was super funky. And by the way, check out Gordy's website. All the links are in the description. I can link to the tune later after the podcast, but for the moment, your YouTube channel is there, so they can find that from the YouTube channel anyway, right?
Yep, just search me on YouTube. Knudtson.
Sweet. All right, man. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for coming on and being generous with your time.
My pleasure.
And I also want to say that you and I got connected through Larry Lelly, who was on the show recently, who, for those of you who don't know, Larry is a wonderful Broadway drummer and wonderful human. And he's with Come From Away right now, and he's super talented, super sweet. And he mentioned about you because we were talking about your headphones, which I'm wearing right now. So we're gonna definitely get into the drummer story and everything, but just in a nutshell, what makes these so special, and why do I love them so much?
Okay, well, first of all, uh, they protect your hearing. You know, I think I can maybe explain it from the problem I was suffering from or dealing with. In the 70s, when I was doing a lot of recording, the headphones, like if you had some AKG 240Ds, they let a lot of the sound in the from the drums. And
Yeah.
if you're playing hard on a track, in order to hear the cue, you had to really crank the cue. Well, back in this time, everybody was on the same cue bus. So once I got
Right.
it to the point that I could hear it good for me, it was killing everybody else. Same with the click levels. There was one set of phones that used to work that I used to find a Pro 488 costs,
Ah.
and those were good because they shut out a lot of sound. So then I went on. I never saw any phones like this. I went to a friend's house when I was out on tour, ran into him in Portland, Oregon, and he showed me his prototype of this. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. Came home, I found, going through a lawn and garden catalog and saw this picture of a guy mowing a lawnmower with a set of phones. And I thought, God, I wonder if that's like my friends. So I ordered, it said, shut out the sound of the lawnmower, listen to music when you mow the lawn. Got it, and sure enough, it was the same concept. Uh, it was a much smaller phone, so I trademarked an idea. We called it drum phones, and we started selling these in 1995.
Wow.
Uh, and then I sold about 1,000 pair with just a one ad modern drummer, or like a black and white ad modern drummer, and an 800 phone number. This is pre-internet.
This is the back of Modern Drummer where all the products were listed.
No. I actually bought ad space,
Oh, you
and I
bought
had
ad
it
space.
through a sketch. And then I had several people say, "Boy, if you could make the sound better, because the sound wasn't great. It was real cheap speakers." So turns out that the guys that made this, once I got these things, like there was an 800 number on the back. I called them. They live in Minneapolis as well. It's a pair of brothers that started a side business. So I said, "Hey, we got this thing." So we struck a deal with them, and I ran with it. I trademarked a name called Drum Phones, and then we sold this. I went back to them with some Sony MDR V6s, which is the home version of the studio headphones, and I said, "If you can put this into this, we got something." It took them 5 tries before they got the low end right, but it worked. They were called super phones. So it was the same muff that the drum phones were in, this diamond Kiroko muff or whatever, but with 75 with 6s. They sold okay. They weren't super comfortable. I had another customer, actually, I think a pit musician out in New York, had sent me a set of the Peltor muffs. He says, "Man, if you could put that into this, because I need even more isolation. My hearing is right on. I'm on the edge of losing it." So I took the Peltors over, and we fit. It was perfect. And you put these on, you wear them all day. There's no issue. With the Superphones, the model before this, you wear them for a couple 8 hours a day. They sat on the ear cartilage, and your ears would be just painfully tender
Yeah.
after a long day. But these are fantastic, and they block 10 dB more sound than the Superphones do.
Yeah, these are
So
so comfortable. I mean, just let me take this off so people could see actually how thick this is. The cushioning is amazing, first of all, and the low end sounds great in here, and it's comfortable because when
yeah,
I'm in here working, I'm in here all day, 8, 10 hours a day,
yeah,
and they don't tire my head the way like the old Vic Firth
yes,
ones. Those
yes,
things hurt.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
these are
That's the
super
same.
comfortable.
That's the Superphones had the same symptoms that they do. Um, these are also great because they block so much sound. If you're, for example, if you're having to run monitors at a show and you're on stage at a theater or something, you can put these on and you can solo up and hear what's going on. The front of house guy, even if the house is really loud, can put these on and solo hear what's going on. if you're overdubbing, like let's say you're doing a fingerpicky acoustic guitar overdub where you got the mics wide open and you're playing along with a track or a click, and you inherently will have bleed from regular headphones. You use Ultraphones, there's no click bleed, no track bleed.
Right, right.
And for me, who is losing, I noticed in my late 30s when I was talking on the phone, I was always, sometimes can I do this? I'm going, what's this? Put on this ear, I could hear exactly what's going on. Back on this ear, so I knew I was losing it. And these have allowed me to retain what hearing I do have. Right. Now I can't record without them. I mean, it's just painful.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other way I use them, or I had used them, was playing with Steve Miller occasionally.
Right.
Like when the venues that we play very configured different sizes, different stage depths. His amp is behind me. Now on a deep stage, that's not an issue.
Right.
But on a real shallow stage, that's a big issue. Because if I'm just using ear monitors, I mean, it's so loud. I have a little mixer where I've got my subgroups and stuff. I can shut his guitar off and hear every note he still plays. That's how loud it is.
Wow.
So if I put the Ultraphones on, then I can do a mix again, and I've got proportion. So,
wow.
It's really, I haven't heard anything on the market that isolates more and sounds as good. And the other concept was that's why we use Sony 7506s. You take an industry standard headphone that everybody is used to, and you put it into this comfortable thing. So it's not, it doesn't, do they sound like 7506s? No, because when you change the box that a speaker's in, you change the coloration of the speaker sound.
Right.
But nothing sounds, I haven't heard anything that beats them yet for the price.
Oh my God. And I will say that, I was saying this earlier, that all my Broadway buds wear them. And the first one that mentioned them to me, I think, was Joe Bergamini. And then we were at PASIC this year, and I think Garibaldi was wearing them during his clinic.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, Dave's got Ultraphones on. So
we did a tour with those guys in Journey one year.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, it was fun. Oh, it was great, man. I got to hear him play every day for 30 minutes. And the most fun I had it was like the last show that we're going to do, and it was an opportunity to rehearse. Steve didn't want to sound check, so he gave the time to the tower guys. So Emilio, because they were going to do some gigs, and I hadn't played the rest of the book or these other tunes for like 3 months, he wanted to run everybody through the stuff. So I got to hear him. I mean, it was right next to the band. I was dancing around. I mean, it was just heaven, man. It was just heaven.
Oh man, the recently Tower played in Manhattan, and just a couple of weeks ago, and so Dave texted me and he's like, "Hey man, want to come to the show tonight?" And it was a Monday, and so I was like, "Oh man," I was like, "I have to do my podcast." I was like, "I can't come. I can't go." I was on with Rick Latham that night. And there was part of me that was like, I could bail on the podcast and just go see Tower play. And then I was like, no, man, I honor my commitments. I got to stay. But they're so great, man. So great. And David's playing is so inspirational, so incredible.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah.
Wow. So that was being out with Steve Miller Band. What year was that?
That wasn't too long ago. It was like
21.
No, 16 or 18 maybe.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe 2014. It was within the last 8 years, something like that.
Okay. But that's an interesting lineup. So Steve Miller Band, Journey.
It was, Tower Power opened for half. They played a half hour. We came out, Steve Miller Band played 80 minutes. Journey came out and played 90 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, and all the stuff was sold out. I mean, it was,
And that wasn't. Was that the years that Steve Smith was back in, or was that Dean Casanova?
Dean Casanova was playing.
Dean.
Yeah.
Dean's a badass.
Dude, he's the Buddy Rich of speed metal. I mean, he was out with. He and Neil were backing Paul Rogers, when with the tour we did with Steve, and Paul was the opening act, and Neil and Dean were working with him and then we did 3 months of them, and I got to watch those guys every night too. Yeah.
You know what's even more astounding is that Dean will sing those really high Steve Perry parts.
Yes.
Spot on. I mean, like,
Yes.
sounds like him. He's got
Yeah.
that range, and he's
Yeah.
got the power, and he's playing drums on top of it.
Yes.
And, you know, he does like I had seen him many years ago. Steve O'Gary was singing, and he was starting to kind of like, his voice was really getting beat up out on the road. And so he would leave the stage, and Dean would sing like part of the set, and really go for it. Like like Mother, Father, like the really high stuff, you know? It's like, whoa, holy moly.
Amazing.
So, back to you. So, Minnesota, we have a mutual friend who maybe if we summon him, he'll pop into the chat. But Dave Stanhope is a friend of mine. I became his technology coach, but we met many years ago at Paiste, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And you guys, he worked under you at McNally, right?
Yes, he was an instructor in the drum department. We started, I believe when he started, it was called Music Tech, and then it became McNally Smith College. But he was there for 27 years, something like that. 28 years.
Wow.
Yeah, he was part of it.
And so were you sort of the head of the department, or?
Yes, basically these two guys, these two guitar teachers that just started the guitar school. First they called it Guitar Center, naturally creative in a name, and they gradually expanded, added bass, added da-da-da, and get them getting bigger, but still just kind of private lessons. Then I think they decided they wanted to try it as a school. They wanted to add drums, so they approached me about putting a program together. And I had just started working with Steve Miller, so I explained to them, I've got this thing going on. If we can figure out a way that I can do both, I'm in. So we struck a deal, and I basically ran the department, hired the faculty, and we together, the faculty and myself. Paul Stieber from PIT was the first guy I hired. He was because I have a high school diploma. I know how to play. I know how to succeed in the business, but I don't know what was expected from a course like this. So when Paul came from Musicians Institute, he was teaching out there, and I said, "So tell me, what are we doing?" So then we started there, and then about a year after Paul was there, Dave came on, and as a team, we built the place. We tried different ideas. We said, what if we do some of this? What if we do less of this, more of this? That kind of thing. And it really turned into a fabulous, really it was a really great thing for drummers. All the drummers that went through it had nothing but good things to say about it.
Nice.
As it progressed, we started as a VOTEC, turned into a junior college, then turned into a 4-year college. That's when it started to have different requirements. We needed somebody with some paper in the department, so I hired a guy named David Schmallenberger. He was a fantastic teacher, a great player, a great organizer, a great administrator. He had all the full skill set. And he came on board, and then things got even bigger and bigger until that they started to decline, because it just was, it's cultural change and whatnot.
Yeah. But so you guys really from the ground up put the curriculum together, and so in the early, I guess before it really became a collegiate type of thing, you guys were doing it. So your Musicians Institute buddy, you and Dave were kind of putting together a curriculum together. And then once it needed to be, I guess they call it matriculated, where it was like for credit, then you brought in another guy to kind of get it on paper for.
Kind of yes and no, Dave. We didn't have to change what we were doing,
Oh,
and what it did was it was funny watching this. This was kind of like the story of you've got a mom and pop grocery store that just keeps growing and gets growing and
right.
growing. It turns into this massive institution, and these last pieces, the way, well, it's, as it starts really well, Georgia's always done this for us, and da-da-da's always done this, and we've always done it this way. But, you can't do that anymore. It's like you have to conform to these models and these business structures.
Right.
And there was a lot of, it was an interesting thing watching this go through this process. The thing that Dave Schmallenberger brought, in addition to just a straight up, he's a great guy and all of the skills and everything, from academia, you were allowed, the more you got into the degree path, you're allowed, people have to have certain academic requirements. So if you're teaching a bachelor's course, you have to expect to have a master's degree level to teach the bachelor's course. I have a high school diploma. David had a doctorate degree, a PhD.
Right.
So he was brought on that to in addition to his skills, now we had the piece of paper that satisfied all the accreditation people and everything. Plus he knew how to do things to make them happy too as well. So he brought some of the academic skills, but he wasn't hired for just that purpose. He's a great teacher and a great player. So
Gotcha. So, and then eventually the program, I know it kind of started to wind down and then eventually kind of closed up, right? So
yes, it did. What basically, in my opinion, a couple things caused the implosion, as it were. First, you had these two guys that were just guitar teachers. Hey, let's start a school.
right.
And if you knew where you were going to end up at this end point, you would have built the very first thing on a nonprofit situation, but it was built for profit.
Right.
There were a couple moments in the history of the timeline of the school where this was brought to their attention, and to my understanding, they could have done something about it, but they chose not to. And then it got bumped down the road some more. There was also a moment in time where there was a tremendous amount of cash flying around, and one of them, they decided we hadn't even finished building the local school, and they decided that they needed to build a school in Germany for some reason. It was just, wow, why are we doing this? So there were, you had a bunch of money that you spent. You had this procedure thing that you were going to have to put in place. By the time we got into the moment where it's like, okay, now we got to do it, took longer than it expected. It was costing more. And at the same time, we were seeing this, there's definitely a cultural decline in people pursuing music as a career thing, just because it's harder and harder to make a buck doing this now. Kids don't see this as a viable career path.
Right.
So they're not going to go spend a bunch of money going to college. Our enrollment peaked at, 2011, 2012, we had 700 students in there. By the time they closed the door in 2017, we were down to about 325.
Right.
So you needed the money to get through this nonprofit hurdle. There wasn't enough money coming in the door. You had money in the past, but you blew it in this nonsense. And if you had just listened about the business model at the time and done it right, it might have come out the other end. But I'll tell you, even if you did all that stuff, I still think the school would have had a chance to survive. It would have gone into much more media depth, video production, editing, audio production, editing. It's because it's now, being a virtuoso instrumentalist is, it's great, I guess, but where's the payoff?
Yep. And now, nowadays, anybody that's that's not wearing many hats is not working as much. So it's sort of like you have to now be able to be your own social media person, your own video production person, your own recording person, your own marketing person. You have to do it all as a musician to really push the ball up the hill at this point.
Yes. And then having these different income streams. That was
Right.
another one of the school plan. Like, and it was my idea that when I was done with it, when Steve Miller decided he wanted to quit playing, that I'd be working at the school.
Right.
Well, the school died before the band died.
Yeah.
And so, and then COVID came along, and then I basically, and I can announce this now, I've kind of resigned from the touring portion of my career.
Okay.
I've left on very good terms with Steve. It was a great run. I had a great time, but
Yeah.
now I'm going to be spending my time home. For over 30 years, I was gone basically every summer, and 3 to 4 months a year, and I've enjoyed being home. Let's just say that for this last couple of
Yeah.
years. So,
And
so
it's not like you didn't
that's
pay your dues.
true.
Yeah.
So the school's gone, the gig is gone now. So the only thing I'm left with is the headphone business and the teaching thing.
Well, yeah.
But
And
that's why you get it all going on,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
something's happening.
but it's great. I mean, that was smart. You have your business, you have your education stuff, and also, you've authored books, and so there's resources for other teachers still out there, and you're good at promoting. I was checking out your YouTube channel. We're actually going to say hello in the chat in a minute, and somebody was just mentioning something about that, about the way you break things down. So,
Do I get to see any of that chat stuff, or is that only on your end?
well, yeah, you won't see it because
Okay.
if I was going to show it to you, I would have to share the screen, and then what happens is we would get this weird reverse thing where we'd see a million screens.
Yeah.
But I'll read them to you. So there's a few people in here already, and we'll say hello real quick now, just to touch base. And let me pull up the chat window so people can see their own chat. But of course, my student Lucia, first one in every week. There she is, and she won the all-in-one pad last time. By chance. So congrats to you, Lucia, on that. And you were just on Channel 2 News being interviewed about playing music. So that was pretty cool. And you made your school of choice in the top bands. Excellent, Lucia. And she says, Gordy, what was it like touring with the Steve Miller Band? So just as an overall feeling, was it all you had hoped?
It was great. Steve runs a first-class organization. Everybody at every position, from the bus drivers to the crew to the sound people to the management to the tour manager, everybody has their act together. Incompetence is not tolerated. We travel. We stay at first-class hotels. We're either staying at Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton, or something equivalent.
Nice.
Real nice. If we fly, we're flying coach most of the time, but that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But we're on we're on a bus. There are 6 of us on one bus, which is very, very nice.
Yeah.
So that that aspects and business-wise, everything that management says is going to happen happens. There's a credibility. If they say we're going to do this, it rarely does it screw up. I mean, they're very together. So all that stuff's wonderful. Music is great. Steve's cool. So that part's good. I mean, typical day, like in a day, if you're out doing this on the road, they'll do something like, let's assume you have an opening act. So they'll say like, lobby call at 2:30 or 3 or 2 o'clock, and they get on the bus. You drive out to the venue. You go stuff your stuff. You go up to the stage. I go up first, check the drums, tweak whatever needs to be tweaked, and then we start sound check. The band does a little sound check. Everybody goes through that. We get a band sound. It takes about a half hour, 45 minutes. Then we take a break, and Steve shows up, and we play for, could be half hour, hour and a half. Done that.
Yeah.
Likes to play shuffles. So we play for sound check, and feeling good, we stop, go get something to eat. Then you hang out till it's your turn to go on the stage. So if you're on at 9 or 9:15, we're done at 11. We walk off stage, walk right on the bus. The bus leaves the venue immediately. We're rolling to the next city, and you'll probably, depending on how long the drive is, you may pull in at 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
You get out of the bus, you go up to your room, you clean up, you do whatever you want to do. You get ready for a lobby call at 2 or 3 o'clock again if it's another show day in a row.
Right.
The nice thing about working with a singer versus working with an instrumentalist is the singer will rest their voice. So typically we would only have usually 3 in a row, 4 in a row max, and then a day or 2 off.
Right.
But Steve is really quite a bulletproof singer. I mean, he's
Wow.
In 30 years of playing his gig, I think I can only remember him canceling twice, and it's literally because he couldn't make a sound with his throat. But
Wow.
there were times where I heard him, at sound check, and I'm going, "Wow, is he going to make it?" Or, talking back in the room, and "Wow, is he going to make it?" Gets up there, bam, took care of business. Amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And he has a great voice, and the range that he sings in, you would think he would need a lot of rest, right?
Well, yeah, but he's also he's 78 years old now. So,
wow. Oh, right.
yeah, yeah. So yeah.
Right.
So, and it's amazing. It's a lot of those our favorite old singers, their voices change as time goes on. So Steve's hasn't changed very much. He's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really distinctive sound to his voice.
Amen.
You hear it, it's him. I mean, that's
Immediate.
that's the mark of a great singer, right? It's
Yeah.
immediately recognizing that. Wow.
The other fun thing about the gig I should mention, and this was the most unique part of it when I first started doing it, is that until you get to this kind of level with this thing, it doesn't just walking out on stage and hearing people scream, just going, "Ah," and that coming at you on stage is like, oh my God. Before we got the in-ear monitors, it was 100. The crowd was 104 dB on the stage for us.
Wow.
You'd be sitting there. I couldn't count. You'd be screaming at somebody. You couldn't hear each other. I had to do visual count offs and that kind of stuff.
Thank God for in-ear monitor systems.
Yes.
Oh my God.
The energy was wonderful.
Oh man. So Lucia, hopefully that answered your question. Mark Thies is with us, and he says those headphones are by far the best investment you can make. Never look back. Same guts as the Sony 7506s. So Mark is definitely a fan of your headphones. Cool. And then Anthony said, Anthony Cucina, how you doing, man? Good buddy of mine. He says, how much are they? Where can I purchase them? Go to Gordy's website. You could order them right there.
Yep.
Should I say
gk-music.com?
gk-music.com. Should I say what the retail price is?
If you want, that's sure. That's fine.
$249.
Yep, $249.95.
$95. Worth the investment, 100%. And by the way, there's a piece of straight cord, and then you have the coiled cord, which I kind of like this, especially at this setup or at my drum kit. So if you're going into, if you're going into a pack, it's helpful. You can throw it behind you, plug it into your pack, or if you're, at a headphone amp, you can plug it there easily, get it behind you. So I like the length of the cord and the combination cord of the straight and the coiled. Yeah,
it's the cord that comes off the 7506s.
Yeah. So there it is, folks. Get them today. Hey. Mark says Dean's work with Mr. Mister in the 80s was incredible. Back to Dean Castronova from the beginning. Yeah, man. Dean Castronova, a force to be reckoned with. And Mark also says, replying to Anthony Cucina, I think they were about $349. Wrong. $249.95. It's been a minute. The only place to buy them is Gordy's website. Is that true?
Yep. Yes, that's right. There is, because this is a custom-made product. We literally buy 7506s and the Pelton muffs and put them together.
Right.
This is not a mass market, mass production thing. I started this out for, doing this, figuring to hit this niche market of professionals, people who were like me, who had this hearing issue going on. And, and it's kind of chugged along nicely for some time. We've had various people, various stars do it. There's the Aerosmith guys have got it.
Nice.
The Green Day, I saw a video where they were wearing on the Green Day. And Foster, the People had one on one of their hits where they were wearing the phones.
Oh, cool.
My most recent story about the Ultraphones, Bonnie Raitt was working on a record last year, and I think Hutch Hutchinson had a pair of Ultras. So about a day or two after they started, I get a phone call to the drummer. Can I get a pair of the headphones? I sure, man. Thanks. Send it on. After that, another phone call. It's the piano player. Can I get a set? Sure, no problem. Send it out. Then after that, Bonnie's management. Can Bonnie get a set of Ultraphones? Sure. Okay.
Nice.
So.
That's great, man. And tomorrow I'm working with Larry Campbell, producer and guitarist from Lee Van Helm fame and Bob Dylan. So I'll let Larry check them out. And his drummer, Justin Gwip, who's a great drummer, and he's our engineer. So he'll be in the studio tomorrow. And Jason Crosby's working with us on this record, so I'll turn him on to them. So I'm going to turn a whole bunch of musicians onto these over the next few days. So that's going to be fun. Let's see. Anthony Cusina said, Gordy's posted some great videos on YouTube on technique. Very well explained. Cool. So, guys, check out Gordy's YouTube channel. There's some great videos. And Gordy's got some great books that I've been looking at. And Larry Rizzo, hey, man. How you doing, Larry? He says, hi, Jim. Hi, Gordy. How's everyone doing tonight?
Larry.
And we got Justin Crouch in here with all smiles. That's cool.
Oh, sure.
Jason Edwards is in here, president and owner of ProLogix. Be sure to check out Gordy's books. They're amazing, full of technique, and very educational, involving meters and musicality. Indeed. Hey, Gordy, hold up our grand prize tonight, which is the Method Pad, green Logix on one side, and then we have a recycled black rubber on the other side, so you have a harder surface, and it's on an MDF base. And it's really super compact and great for travel. It's not as small as the little 8-inch pads, but this is still great. You could throw it in a backpack, put it on top of your snare. Love this pad. A lot of my students are using this particular model. So if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see that there's a link there to enter for the contest. All you need is an email. Go in there, enter. You might just win. And you're putting in an email address, then I'm basically going to send out an email blast saying who won in 2 days. So there it is. Thanks for popping in, Jason. You're the best, man. And thanks for always being supportive to us.
I want to put in plug for the blackout pad. I just got mine today. I really like this. This is it's a very slow pad, and it forces you to really keep fingers in contact with the stick. So
yeah, indeed.
This is really cool.
This pad has a lot more. Where's the stick? So as far as it'll still bounce all the way up to a full stroke, but it's definitely, the density is a different thing, and you have to work a little bit harder, a little bit more fingers to snap that into the pad, which is great. So that's the one that I use the most, is the blackout pad. Yeah, man. Awesome.
I find the slower pads force the issue with keeping these fingers connected always with the stick. And when you go even onto pillows, and you have to, or else you won't be able to play. So I think it's great. It's important to play on the bouncy thing, because you've got to be able to control the rebound and be able to get your fingers out of the way of the rebound to let the stick do what it's got to do. But it's also important to practice on the dead surface too, so that you're getting that picking up thing.
Yeah, definitely. And it hurts a lot when you do it on your leg, which is what I did as a kid. I would practice my doubles on my leg all the time because there was no rebound, and I would have to really snap the back fingers to get that double stroke. And so I would work on my doubles on my leg and get bruises. But now, with Jason Edwards making these very cool practice pads, I don't have to beat my leg up anymore.
True. Let me show you. I haven't done a thing on this. Here's a little idea of using the leg, but we don't hit the leg, and working on open close mechanics.
Right.
If you think of just you're setting the stick down on the leg and just let's get this out of here so you can see it. So I see my hand is open.
Yep.
So I'm not hitting. I'm just kind of setting it down.
Oh, that's cool.
And then in order to do this, these fingers have got to stay connected. Right. So you could practice a double stroke roll slow.
Yeah.
Let the stick just lay on your legs and feel this connection between the stick and the fingers. So you don't have
cool.
that, but you got this,
Nice. There you go, kids. A little quick drum lesson. Cool. Dave Clive hanging with us, my good buddy Dave from Dave Clive's Gretsch Museum in Brooklyn. Dave Clive was a guest on the show. I forget what episode that was, Dave. What was the episode number? And we were talking about vintage Gretsch drums, so it was very, very fun. Dave has a lot of rare drums in his Gretsch Museum. So thanks for hanging, Dave. Steve Balgoyan hanging with us. Yeah, man. Cool show. Was listening during my commute after a stop at the drum shop. Very excellent. And Jason Edwards says, love you guys. Thanks for Jim and Gordy for all you do. And Dave Clive saying hello to you, Gordy. Awesome. All right, so we'll get back to the chat later. We're gonna get back into your story. So I know that I read your bio and you started playing around the age of 15, right?
Yeah.
So I always ask this, but what was the thing, the spark, the ignition that went, oh man, that's what I want to do. I want to play drums.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of easy. It's not going to be what you think it was. I also, before I played drums, I played piano in grade school. Was good. Won a state contest when I was 13 years old. Playing classical stuff. Hated it.
Oh, wow.
Was always asking the piano teacher to let me play some boogie woogie pieces, like Flight of the Bumblebee, and there was a couple other things. And yeah, well, you can do that, but first you got to do these 3 pieces, right? So I did that for a while, but I didn't. I thought I wanted to play jazz. I just liked the boogie woogie, the R&B kind of stuff. In 5th grade, I saw my friend get out of school for lessons on clarinet for a class out of 1 day a week for about 30 minutes. He said, yeah, I want to do that. So I'm going to play clarinet. So I started playing clarinet. My mother found a good clarinet, got me lessons with a symphony clarinetist, and I was first chair clarinet in high school band in junior high school.
Oh, wow.
Hated it. I had to sit right up front by the band director. I got a good tone. I could read music. I understood phrasing, all that kind of stuff. But in the back, the drummers, there was a water fountain back there. There was chairs they could walk around. And I thought, God, man, I want to be back there. So I also wanted to do supposedly what I thought was teach myself how to improvise, since I couldn't get. My mother tried to find me a jazz piano teacher, and she's not in the music business. She didn't know anything about the music business, so she didn't know who to go to. So I figured, well, maybe I can, if I just listen to records, I can teach myself how to play. So that's, with the drums thing, I just sat with records and figured it out. I started backwards. I'm a right-handed guy, but I started playing with my hands backwards, with the rationale being, well, this is the harder way to hold the stick. I'll put it in my strong hand, and I'll put it on the stronger way to hit in my weak hand. But I played right-footed. So I played 6 months, 9 months.
Open-handed.
Well, no, but with like Lenny White or in Billy Cobham before they switched to match grip.
Oh, okay,
so they're playing left-handed on a right-handed kit. It's cockamamie.
Yeah.
So my first teacher said, "Well, listen, either you got to either do this or do this." So then I switched at that point. I liked the drums. I thought I knew some stuff until I took my first couple lessons, and I realized how little I knew.
Right.
But I always liked the music. The music was the thing that sucked me into it. I liked the records. I would put on Aretha Franklin records, Motown records, James Brown, and just play along like all day long because it would just felt so good to be part of that music. So that's what motivated me.
Yeah. What? So when you got into it, did you immediately get a drum set, or were you playing it? Going up to school and hitting the drums up there in the beginning, or how did that work out?
I played the drums at school in a bit, and then I figured out my dad helped me buy. I did chores around the house to earn some money, and he helped me, and I bought my first drum set was like a Stetson, one of those brown, marble kind of things. It was so, but it was, hey, I thought it was great, And as soon as I had that, I had headphones and I was playing along with records. Only really cheap headphones that had no isolation at all. So,
Yeah.
that's why I'm so fond of the Ultraphones because the antithesis of what I used to deal with.
Yep. Oh my goodness. So once you started you were kind of self-teaching, and then that first teacher that you got was
Floyd Thompson. Floyd Thompson.
Floyd
was-
Thompson, local guy.
Yes, he taught at Marvin Dahlgren. Had a drum store called Dahlgren's Drum Shop, and Floyd was the teacher up there. And I studied with Floyd for a couple of years, and then I studied with Marv for a couple of years, and I think I had a few lessons too with Elliot Fine as well, the other percussionist in the Minnesota Orchestra.
Yeah,
He
Dave.
was hilarious, and he was great too.
He was so funny.
Absolutely.
Dave, Dave introduced me to him, Dave Stanhope, and we were at Paiste, and he was wheeling Elliot around in his wheelchair at the time, and I was talking to Elliot, and I was like, man, I go, your book, 4-way coordination. I was like, that's a beast. And he goes, you know something? He leans over and he goes, I still can't play that effing thing. And I was like, oh man, that was so classic. He's so funny.
He was funny. He was a great guy.
Yeah. Oh man. So that's a cool, beginnings to your foundational stuff.
Yeah, that was kind of my teacher experience, and then my band director was a working professional musician, and so he and and I think Floyd, I got into the musicians union when I was 17, I think, or 16, can't remember, 16 or 17, and I started doing. I did my first union gig when I was like 17. I was still in high school, and I was 17 years old, playing with old guys that, old guys. They were 40s and 50s,
Right.
And it was great because to put it in context, in 1970, I had a busboy job that paid $1.25 an hour. I'd work a 40-hour week and have maybe $50 or so, and they take taxes out of that. I go do my first gig with this trio on it, and I'm making $45 a night for playing for 4 hours worth of music.
Right.
I think I'll do more of this.
Yeah.
I came up working with the older cats initially before I got into the connecting with the rock guys.
That was in the days when you had to show your union card.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, kind of. It was kind of coming out of that, but yeah. You were expected to have all that stuff in line. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, at least have it in your wallet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny, man. Yeah, I joined the union early too, only because the college program that I was in, which Dave Clive, my friend Dave Clive was in here, was the percussion teacher. Was the 802, for New York, 802 Music Union
Yep.
program. So we basically went to school Tuesdays and Thursdays. It was designed for musicians that were going to work. And so we went to school 2 days a week, did all of our classes. You went from early in the morning till 6 or 7 o'clock at night with your ensembles. And so you just go all day for 2 days, and then we joined the union at that point, which was helpful because I was starting to do theater work and do cabaret work, and so you needed your union status for that. So, yeah,
Cool.
Oh, very cool. So, and then so that was like from high school heading into the beginnings of college, maybe.
Yeah, I did a first year part-time,
Right.
which I took 4 credits were music theory and ear training, and 4 credits of drum lessons with Marv Dahlgren, and I think 4 credits of English comp. I was at that point, I was 19 years old. I had started doing. The guy, Bill Berg, was the drummer in town who was doing all the jingle work in town. There were 5 jingle producers. Everything was filed back then. This was all like above board,
Right.
the way it should have been run, with residuals, all that business. There were 5 music producers. One of them was a kid my age. His name was Bill Barber. Really talented, could play all the instruments, could write music. I mean, just ridiculously talented guy. He was writing the jingles and would hire me to play drums on his jingles.
Nice.
I found out he failed the first year music theory course at the University of Minnesota. And I said, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. A guy this talented fails something's amiss here.
Yeah.
So basically I let the school thing go. And just was playing full time. I was playing at night and doing there was a lot of jingle work happening in this town, even though in the Midwest you wouldn't think it'd be that much, but there was, General Mills, Archer Daniel, Mid ADM, there's Dairy Queen, there's a lot of corporate stuff here. So you would do a surprising amount of music. I was on all the radio, TV station ID logos, like you just in the 70s, if you were flip the stations and you heard the theme song for each channel,
Right.
I was playing on all of them, back
Wow.
pre-cable.
Oh
In
man.
the old days.
Yeah. Back in the old days when jingles were actual people playing on them.
Yeah. Hey, I got a nice little pension coming from all the work I did, that was filed back in that little 10, 15-year period. So it's, not good. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, thank goodness, man. And so I read that is this pretty early on? Well, I guess so that was during the 70s, right?
Yeah.
And then you started to play with some bands, some kind of larger bands at that point. Right? So in the beginning you wrote Passage, the Doug Maynard band, and the Lamont Cranston band at night. So tell me about those artists.
Those are all regional, little regional acts. Passage, that track that you were playing, which is called the King Snake, the guy that's playing guitar on that was the leader and one of the co-leaders and the guitar player in this band called Passage. This was 45 or 47 years ago.
Wow.
Bobby Schnitzer, he played guitar with Mason Prophet. He was also in Al Jarreau's first band.
Is Passage like a fusion thing?
Yes and no, not fusion in the way that a jazz guy would think it was fusion, right. But it was funky. It had bluesy. It was a lot of good players. We had this incredible singer named Doug Maynard who was just unbelievable. He had one of those voices that just was, oh my goodness, Anyway, I met him. That's the first time I met him. He was in the band for the very first week I was with Passage. He had a lot of problems. He'd been in and out of treatment like 16 times. Just
right.
One of those kind of stories. So I worked with him for a week, and then he disappeared. I worked with Passage for a while, and then later on, Doug Pink came back into this thing, and we started a little band called the Doug Maynard Band. And that ended up turning into a good thing for Doug regionally. And I started working then also, I think, about like 1981 with the Lamont Cranston Band. They were probably the biggest thing coming out of this town at that point in time in the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, other than Prince, like a pop, you know.
Was that
They
like
had
R&B kind of stuff?
kind of like bluesy kind of stuff, not
Yeah.
quite as R&B as you think, a little more bluesified. They opened up 10 shows for the Rolling Stones in 1980, I believe.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was climbing the, that was kind of going up the road. That for a year, they had a record out, came out on RCA Records. They had a guy named Peter Solly produced it. As soon as there was a management change at RCA at that point, the guy who was behind the band left. The new guy that came in was an accountant. He just shelved every project. So to this day, that tape still sits up on the wall. Well, as soon as that happened, the band fell apart.
Right.
And at that moment in time, a friend of mine, Gordy Knudtson, called me and wanted to see if I could play with Roy Buchanan for a while. So I did a year with Gordy Knudtson and Roy Buchanan.
Yeah. So tell me about that. So that's sort of, elevating again, moving up kind of in the status of gigs, right?
Yeah. Roy was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing guitar, absolutely amazing guitar player. The gig was fun, good tunes, but Roy's kind of had a lot of issues and problems too. It depended on which Roy would show up.
Yeah.
So but he was just an amazing guitar player. There's actually some audio that exists of me playing with him. If you go into YouTube and you search Roy Buchanan 1981, and it's at El Macambo Club. We were up in Toronto, and I think we were playing Turn to Stone. So, but that's an example of that. And it was kind of it was an interesting experience.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. And then you kind of got into playing jazz, right, with Ben Sidran?
I always kind of played jazz, and I liked playing jazz. I played jazz in high school with a stage band. I liked to play along with swing records, John Coltrane records, Miles Davis records. Was I God's gift to jazz drumming? No, but I liked the music, and I liked the feeling and that kind of stuff. So I could, I'll do okay in a jazz situation. You can put me in there within certain parameters, and I'll sound like I'll belong.
Right. Yeah.
And I got an opportunity to work with Ben Sidran. How things happen in this business is crazy. So I got a phone call from a friend of mine, Billy Peterson, who it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. He says, "Gordy, can you grab your drums and catch a flight to Chicago? We got to play the Quiet Night tonight in Chicago, and then we got to go to Milwaukee, Madison, and then we play Minneapolis." He was in the middle of a tour with Ben Sidran, and they had to fire the drummer for various reasons. And,
various reasons.
Yes. And so I was hired to finish the thing. Ben liked what he heard, and I said, "If you ever need anybody, this is fun to do. I'll enjoy this. Give me a call." Yeah. So I started working with him, and it was really fun. Made some good records with him. I really enjoyed recording with Ben. We had a nice little thing. If we were making a record, Ben would bring in, "Here's my tune idea." He'd kind of play a little thing and sing the lyrics through. Billy and I are listening to it. We kind of figure out a groove. Billy will reharmonize the chords, show Ben some stuff, and ended up with some really unique recordings that I'm very proud of. You can hear some of those at my YouTube channel as well.
Oh, cool. All right. So that's another thing for everybody to check out. Very cool. Would you say is it pretty straight ahead, or Is it?
No, it's kind of a cross. It's kind of a fusiony thing, and some of it, most of it's got vocal in it
Oh, okay.
because it's, you know, it's Ben's it's got a kind of a clever lyricist, and one of the things he started doing was writing lyrics to standards, and that's one thing that started. But then that led him to some other stuff, and it's like a Mose Allison kind of thing, maybe,
Okay.
if you wanted to try and put some kind of a label on it.
Yeah.
But it's not super stone cold hardcore bebop, no.
Yeah.
But it's the stuff is swinging, or it feels appropriate, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's fun to do.
Nice. And
And
then,
that connection with Ben led to the Steve Miller connection.
so how did that work?
Well, it turns out Ben used to be in the Steve Miller band when they were in college. I guess, and Boss Skaggs was in there too.
Yeah.
Um, so we've been working with Ben at that point for about 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years. He says, I'm going to start working on a record, and he sent the tape out to Steve to have him sing some backgrounds on a few tunes. So Steve did that, came back, sounded good. Steve had fun. At that point, Steve was at a moment when he wasn't touring.
Okay.
So the record came out. Ben liked it. We said we should do a video, a live concert. So we did that. He flew Steve in to play, and he brought in Phil Woods as well to play. So it was a Ben Sidran with special guest Phil Woods and Steve Miller. Steve Miller had a great time playing with us, doing this. And again, he wasn't working. We were out later on, a year after that, excuse me, playing Jazz Alley in Seattle for 2 weeks. The first week, Steve was there every night, sitting in the booth for the whole 4 hours. Well, we played 3 sets, I think it was, and checking the whole thing out. And it turns out he was leasing a recording studio about 4 blocks from the gig, one of the K. Smith rooms in Seattle. So the second week, we were cutting tracks with Ben's band and Steve singing during the day, and then we'd go play the gig at night at Jazz Alley. And that record became Born to Be Blue, the Steve Miller thing. We ended up doing a few more tracks down. He flew us out to Capitol Records, and we recorded it. I think 2 or 3 of them were recorded at Capitol Records in Studio A. But and then this moment in time, he wasn't touring. It was my understanding that he quit touring, I believe, in 82 or 83. Abracadabra had come out and was doing well, but he wasn't selling tickets. So he just decided, I'm going to stop this for a while. So he makes the jazz record, decides, okay, well, let's test the waters again. So put a theater tour on sale this was in 1988. And everything was instantly sold out. In the period of time that he had taken when he stopped playing to when he started to do this tour again, 2 things had happened. His Greatest Hits CD came out and was selling 1 million copies every year, and classic rock radio had kicked in, and he was in heavy rotation constantly on that. So he was building a whole new crowd of people. So when we went out he thought we were going to do this theater tour, going to be a nice, sophisticated jazz tour, and we're going to do all this older adult music. And it was all these kids who were they were pissed off about hearing jazz stuff. They didn't want to hear the jazz stuff. So, in fact, there's some recordings where we're playing, he's singing C.C. Ryder over All Blues, and you can hear some kids screaming in the front, play the Joker! Play the Joker!
I was just about to say, they must have been heckling you and telling you to play the Joker. Oh my God, or Swingtown or whatever, all the stuff from that Greatest Hits album.
Yes.
Oh my
so then we went in 89, they booked what they called the sheds in the vernacular. Those are the outdoor amphitheaters. There's a whole circuit of those.
Yeah.
And those were all selling out. And it was back, boom, it was just huge. We had 20,000 people a night at the show. It was, and like I say, you'd come out on stage, you couldn't hear. The crowd was so loud. It was unbelievable.
Oh, that's
just
crazy.
Unbelievable.
See that? It's sort of like, first of all, he's not touring, so it gives people a chance to miss that music. But the
Yeah.
greatest hits album, I had that greatest hits album. Everybody bought that greatest hits album.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and of course that was in heavy rotation. So and all the songs on that truly were massive radio rotation hits.
Yes.
So, it's kind of like the perfect storm that put him back on the map, really, right?
Yes. Yeah. It was Amy. He, in the very early part of it, he was riding on the bus with us.
Right.
And there was a moment where he and I were alone in the lounge up in the front, and we were watching the tape from the show, and he says, Gordy, I never in my and seeing these 20,000 people freaking out over the Joker,
Yeah.
20 years after it was a hit, and he just said, never in my wildest imagination did I believe I'd have this at this
Wow.
point, So it's just been crazy. He's amazingly fortunate, but he's also got a work ethic too. He knows what he's doing. He knows, there's a reason why he is where he is.
Right.
In addition to the actual gift and the music part, that's a key component. But there's a huge other piece.
Yeah.
People think success is just if you have some incredible talent. Yeah, that'll get you somewhere. And if it's a really incredible talent, it could get you pretty far. But if you've got some smarts too, you're gonna really go far.
Yeah,
And
because
you're
you're
not
not
gonna
going to
get
have the
screwed.
longevity without the skill, the
Yes.
business skills,
Yes.
and the wherewithal to navigate all of this stuff. So,
Yes.
yeah. So really, you were in a very good situation, and kind of how it led to that. I am always fascinated by how people wind up playing with who they're playing with. It's always interesting. It's always 6 degrees of separation, sort of like I played with this bass player who, like when I was talking to Brian Dunn, the way that he wound up with Daryl Hall was all these connections of guys over the years, and he could draw the line back to each one. It's pretty amazing.
Brian's an ultraphone guy.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. And actually, if you go on his Instagram page, you could see him. He's always working on tracks that he's doing for people, and you'll see him wearing them. That's right.
Cool.
That's pretty funny. So, by the way, I just wanted to ask you. As a kid, the first time I was listening to the Steve Miller Band stuff, is it a swish knocker, like
I think so.
that's always standing out in those tunes, right?
Yeah.
Like in
Yeah.
what
Money and Run, Rockin' Me.
Yeah.
It's a to me it was a swish. It was a China cymbal with definitely with rivets.
With rivets, yeah.
Gary Malaber came up with those parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the parts are great that he came up with.
Great parts, yeah. When did he depart the band?
I think he was after the Abracadabra tour. I think that was
Okay.
like 81 or 82. And then they went into this period. And then
Right.
that's when Steve thought, well, I'll do this jazz thing. So he literally took Ben Sidran and his band as his band, so all of us he just encapsulated the band and took us with him.
Oh, that's so funny. Let me ask you something. In the very beginning, when he started to tour again, you guys were still playing sort of like the jazz stuff. How quickly did he change the set when he realized that people were going like, play the hits? What's the matter with you? Fly like an eagle.
Well, when he realized he really needed to do it.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember a rehearsal in Dallas. We were playing the convention center, and we were adding Jungle Love.
Right.
And that's got some really high singing in it. And we hadn't, I don't know if we might have altered the key on it now and pulled it down maybe a step or two. But, he always likes his tunes. He likes all the tunes that are generating money for him. So,
Right.
but we were the very first night we were doing that. He was singing around, and he turned around and looked at me, and he's just going, "I don't like this tune," because it had to put, it just had to, it put his voice in a place that he wasn't ready to go yet. But
Yeah.
I think he since got it all worked out and everything was fine. But he would I distinctly remember having to learn hits in the middle of that tour just to placate the audience.
And that's a pretty high energy tune, and tempo wise, it's one of his little bit quicker tunes, really, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's cooking along pretty quick and in that higher range. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, funny, man. Oh, very cool. So I wanted to ask you, there's you and I are going to have to do another podcast, by the way, because I have so many things to get to that we're just not going to be able to get to, only because I'm staying on a tight schedule tonight, because I have to move into a studio early in the morning tomorrow, so I have much packing to do and stuff. But I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to give you a few like speed round questions, but I want to ask you a couple of things. So, something I do want to get to, and you and I will talk about a date that we can get back together and do a part 2. I think we need a part 2. But with the books and stuff that you've been writing, because you wrote some instructional stuff, and I'm actually really fascinated by the topics, and you were generous enough to send me a few things to check out. So circular rhythms, we have the rhythm library system technique for drummers, and morphing doubles revised.
Yeah. So the circular rhythms book is basically, think of that as an odd meter syncopation thing, where you take a odd, either an odd meter motif, either in 3, 5, or 7 note group, and you write it in 4/4 time, and you just keep going with the same rhythm, and you mark all the 4-bar phrases.
Yeah.
So as you're reading it, you're playing the same one, rhythm over and over, but if you're playing 4/4 ostinato, it really does a mind trip for independence. So if you think your independence is happening, try this book out. First, it's the front half of the book is in 8th notes form, and then the back half of the book is in 16th notes form.
Right. Yeah.
It's got 3s, 5s, and 7s. I had one student who said, if I don't mess with the 3s or 7s. He says, if you can play the 5s, you can play everything.
Yeah, right. It's pretty funny. I have a section in my little hand technique workshop booklet, and where I'm marking resolve points and doing a similar thing, like so moving groups of 5, groups of 7, throughout. Everything's in 4/4 time, and it's marking those resolve points and doing different rhythms. Your material is great for that because you kind of went through many combinations of the stuff. So it's very, very cool, the amount of permutations that you went through with it. So that's exciting. So I will definitely explore that in my teaching practice. As an educator, it's such great resources, and I'll point my students in that direction as well.
And rhythm library. Can I talk a little bit about the rhythm library system?
I was going to ask you.
That basically is my distillation of a method that's been floating around drum world for many, many years. Alan Dawson is credited with a great deal of it. I've also seen the LA version of it too. So I don't know if there was a cross-pollination there or how that happened, and I don't know who to give credit to. But I do know this, that both sets of rules I saw when someone was trying to explain it, the concept was you could take the Ted Reed book, those 8 solos or 9 solos in the middle,
right,
and you can set up a situation where you're playing fills around this and reading the melody and playing this wall of sound thing. And every time I was shown this, there was shown, okay, you've got 8 things you got to know what. You got to know what an eighth hit note, eighth rest is in terms of what to play pattern-wise. Obviously you have to know what it is to read it.
Yeah.
But it was the quarter note, quarter rest, dotted quarter, rest, half note, half rest. I realized if you took the rests out, all you have is 4 things you got to know. And if you break it down that far, jumping into those 4 pages of syncopation will use all of them. It'll use the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s.
Right.
Sometimes you got a nice little pattern. It's like being thrown in the deep end of the pool with ankle weights on. How do you swim? So what I did was break it down and create subsets. So if out of it we create a pattern group on a page. If you see an eighth note, play this pattern. Quarter note, play this pattern, etc., etc. So on here we got a page. It's nothing but half notes and quarter notes and different rhythms. So you can play these as sequences of patterns. You got half notes and dotted quarter notes, dotted quarter notes and half notes, or quarter notes, dotted quarter notes, etc. All these combinations. So often you see drummers that come up with some kind of a cool little lick, and if we've got this little piece as a kind of a cornerstone, we can lengthen it or subtract some notes to shorten it, and we can fit it into the system. And now that we have all of these combinations of rhythms, I can take this idea and I've got something, rather than I play for maybe 5 seconds and you've seen it. Now I could give you for a minute and tell a story going, because I've got some larger architecture driving it.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a simplification of an Alan Dawson thing.
Yeah. And everybody's got their systems for it. Not always notated, but everybody has their systems. The first time I became aware of those kind of systems was studying with Kim Plainfield at Drummers Collective in New York City. And then Marvin Smitty Smith had a set of them. And then I started writing my own. I was calling them substitutions, where, I had sort of the same idea, kind of like words, sentences that can get put together by substituting various rhythms. But your book is really fun, and again, it's more material to explore and to put in your tool bag for improvisational tools. There's so much you can do with it, so I really appreciate that book as well. And the other one you sent to me, let's talk about that one. So morphing doubles. So with the open-close technique. So this is referring to push-pull, open-close, and your approach to that. And I think your last 2011, is that the last revision of that?
Yeah. These are the freshest.
The freshest. You got the fresh ones, Jim. And I like the diagrams. I mean, it's nice. The diagrams are really well done. Explaining from close to open in the three layers of diagrams that you did. Very, very cool.
It's really quite simple, and it's funny. It's not a open, close, push, pull, drop, snap, drop, squeeze. It's all the same. It's all the same thing.
Right.
Basically, what we're doing is fundamentally what happens is it's the mechanics of a double stroke. When we go play a double stroke, the first note is, the fulcrum. A double stroke by definition is the hand goes down and up. Yep. And makes 2 notes. So we get a ding, 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 ding. It happens really fast.
Right.
So you don't see it move, but it is there. It is moving. It has to in order to make it a double stroke. All this technique does is acknowledges that you can slow this down to the point that you can stop in any of these positions. And the fact that you can control the timing of the second note independent of the first creates this tool that it's like for me it was a technical end run around all of these inherent problems that everybody wants to seem to solve. Well, just keep doing it. It's like your muscles. I think the concept was, well, eventually you'll get so fatigued that you'll get out of your own way and you end up playing it right. But it's just exploiting this, so that, for example, in morphing doubles, if we have a single and we get followed by a double stroke, we could play it as a triplets,
right,
as sixteenths. I could delay that second note, and I turned that into a flam. Back to this. Turn it into a closed drag. Same thing.
Right.
So it's using this understanding that this motion gives you these two sounds. As before, it's just like you make a movement and you're trying to control this, or you're trying to touch it. This gives it definite down and up. And the other neat thing about this, particularly when you're playing drum set, is that, you know, we're playing dance music. In order for us, if the groove is really happening on the drums, the drummer is dancing behind the drums. I mean, some of the best drummers, Steve Gadd's a tap dancer, Buddy Rich was a tap dancer.
Yeah.
There's a dancing thing to it. You can feel now notes on the ups. You're not just feeling notes on the downs, but you're feeling them on the ups too, and it gives these things rhythmic positions to go into, and all of a sudden everything just gets simpler and more locked in, and you feel more grounded. It's just it's really quite amazing, you know.
Yeah,
but it's all the same technique. Some people will say, well, push pull is down here. Well, yeah, but you're still opening and closing the hand, you know.
Right.
If it's done out here in German position, if you're in French position, it's as long as these fingers are staying attached to the stick wherever you've got it, and you're taking advantage of the fact that they can move, it's the same thing, you know. That we've all got the same hinge points on our wrists and the like. So
yeah. And, you know, you want to up your shuffle game.
Amen.
It's imperative, you know, this technique. So, you know, for
Amen.
sure. Yeah, man. Holy moly.
Well, listen, I know you got to go, and maybe this would be a good point to kind of pull the plug and
yeah. And what I'm going to do is I want to do two things. One is I just want to mention. Oh, I also want to mention your sponsors as well. So I know you're not touring right now, but so we both have ProLogix in common. But you're also a Paiste endorser, right?
Yep.
And who else do we have on your list here? Let me see.
Oh my God, Innovative Percussion.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm getting old. I can't remember this. Innovative Percussion. Yeah, they make my sticks, and I also use their pads too. Great sticks. Really good stuff. I was with another company for many years, and they were sold, and I was panicking, and a friend of mine turned me on to these guys in Nashville, and just they make really great stuff.
Yeah. Innovative Percussion is very, very cool. And I also want to just mention to everybody, go to Gordy's website. You can get the Ultraphones, which are awesome, and I'm going to be using them throughout the week in the studio, so I'm very excited for that. And also go to Gordy's YouTube page, because there's YouTube channel. There's some great material there, as well as demonstrations of a lot of the techniques we were just going over, right? So
Absolutely.
You can find the stuff there. And Gordy and I are definitely going to have to do a part 2 at some point, because I only got to 5 questions out of my 20 questions. So we'll pull it together again, I think, pretty easily in the near future. And
Cool.
And this was episode 92, by the way, which I have a very special 100th episode coming up. 8 episodes from now that's already booked. So I'm not announcing the guest yet, but I have 4 special guests on that night on the 100th episode. I'm very excited about that. So I'm booked all the way through June. I'm starting to book July now for the podcast. So, but there are some holes in there, so I'm going to get you back in there, Gordy, if that's all right with you.
Sure. Love to.
And I want to thank you for being so generous with your time. And I also want to thank everybody that was in the chat tonight that said hello. And if I missed your question, we'll try to answer any questions. If there's any information that we need to direct to Gordy, I will do that. And I just want to thank everybody for hanging with us tonight. And by the way, make sure you go, and you have still probably almost a whole day to to sign up for your pad to to win your method pad. So so make sure you sign up to win the method pad from ProLogix. So and thank you, Jason Edwards, for hanging with us tonight and helping promote the contest. So ProLogix. Thanks, Gordy. I appreciate you hanging tonight and getting some of your story. And
Thank you, Jim.
yeah, we're gonna do this real soon. I'm gonna roll the titles, and I'll see everybody. Oh, next week is a rerun. I'm not sure which one I'm gonna do yet. You can email me and request one, but there'll be a rerun next week, and then I'll see everybody on April 11th with Adam Deach from Lettuce, and we'll be talking about some funk drumming for sure. All right, everybody, we'll see you guys real soon. Thanks for hanging out tonight.
Thank you.